The woman disappeared on a Tuesday. Not a storm. Not a holiday. Just rain that never fully stopped. Water clung to curbs and stairwells. Streetlights reflected twice on the pavement, once above and once below. Her name would be printed later as Elena Markovich. At first it was only a description: office worker, late shift, last seen near the tram stop. The cameras near the stop did not help. One was offline. Another aimed slightly too far left. The report used a clean word: unknown. In the underground passage 2 blocks away, a light panel flickered on and off. That panel had been reported 3 times. It had never been replaced. That night, it finally was. Adrian Locke worked maintenance nights. Temporary contract, renewed by silence. His name appeared in systems that no one read unless something broke. He knew the city through its hidden routes. Service corridors. Emergency doors. Tunnels painted over by posters and grime. At 1829 he signed into the job log. At 1841 he noted the time again because the panel had gone dark completely. He was on a ladder with a tool belt pressed into his ribs. The air smelled of damp concrete and old electricity. Footsteps approached behind him. Not hurried. Not heavy. A woman passed, slowed, then looked back. Not fear. Not curiosity. A check. Adrian looked down at the screws in his hand. The panel casing felt warm. The passage stayed cold. When the new light snapped on, the footsteps were already gone. The next morning, the missing notice spread in small ways. A printed sheet on a lobby board. A screenshot shared in chats. A name repeated with different spellings. Adrian saw it in the break room and kept walking. He had seen the woman only once. There was nothing to say. He returned to the same passage that evening. The panel stayed stable. The light did not flicker. A damp flyer had been taped to the wall near the stairs. Elena's face looked tired, as if photographed at the end of a workday. Adrian did not stop. He did not look long enough for anyone to notice him looking. At 19:06 he wrote a short note in his log. Normal conditions. The word normal sat on the screen longer than it should have. Then he closed it and moved on. 3 days later, a routine verification request arrived through internal channels. A supervisor forwarded it with no comment. It asked for the maintenance timeline near the underpass on Tuesday. It asked for confirmation of presence. It asked for any anomalies. Adrian typed that the panel had been replaced and the corridor had been clear. He removed the word clear and replaced it with stable. Stable could not be questioned. Clear invited questions. The confirmation was filed automatically. A green check mark appeared. That night the rain smelled metallic. Traffic kept moving as if nothing had happened. On a shop window, between 2 posters, Adrian saw a shape that matched Elena's outline. Only for a moment. Only in the glass. When he turned, the sidewalk was empty. The reflections returned the next evening. Train windows. Dark vending machine glass. The black surface of a turned-off screen. Always behind him. Always at the same distance. Never moving closer. Adrian stopped looking directly at reflective surfaces. He learned to read the city through matte paint and dirty concrete. At work, someone mentioned the case had gone quiet. The word was said like relief. Adrian cleaned a drain cover with a rag and watched the water carry dust away. The motion was steady, indifferent. He checked the underpass camera pole on his route. A small light blinked. The lens aimed at a wall. It would have been easy to adjust. A screwdriver could have turned it a few degrees. He did not touch it. A week after the disappearance, Adrian's access badge failed once. Then worked again. No explanation. A second request arrived. Not from police. From records. It included a draft timeline already filled in. Times printed as if measured, not estimated. One line showed Adrian's presence in the passage. One line showed Elena's entry into the underpass. One line showed nothing after. Adrian recognized the first time. He did not recognize the second. The city did not feel like it was searching. It felt like it was settling. That night, the reflection appeared in the glass of a closed pharmacy. Elena stood behind Adrian, still impatient. In the reflection her eyes were open wider than on the flyer. Not fear. Not pleading. Recognition. 2 days later, Thomas Hale appeared in the building lobby. No uniform, no badge, no hurry. A coat too clean for the weather. He waited near the vending machines as if the spot had been assigned. He spoke with the careful tone of someone reading from internal policy. This case requires alignment. Adrian sat because standing drew attention. Hale placed a thin folder on the table. No logos. No department header. Only a number. "We want this closed," Hale said. Adrian said nothing. Hale continued, "Silence is acceptable if it is consistent." Adrian asked, "What is being asked?" Hale said, "A stable version." The folder stayed unopened. The coffee stayed untouched. That night, Adrian returned to the underpass before his shift. He told himself it was routine. The panel was stable. The corridor was empty. Near the stairwell, adhesive marks showed where the missing flyer had been. The paper was gone. The outline remained. A transit officer walked through, slow and bored. He stopped near Adrian's tool bag. "Maintenance?" Adrian nodded. The officer looked down the passage, then back. "People keep asking about her." Adrian kept his eyes on the wall tiles. "What do they ask?" "Footage. Names. Anything that moves the story forward." A short pause. "Nothing moves." Adrian let the silence sit. The officer shifted his weight. "Cameras work. Just not where they should." Adrian's mouth felt dry. "So someone moved them." The officer's expression stayed neutral. "Or someone never corrected them." Another pause. "One more thing," the officer added, voice lower now. "If anyone asks, say you didn't see her." Adrian finally looked at him. "That's a lie." The officer shrugged once. "Not because it's true. Because it ends the conversation." He walked off without turning back. Adrian climbed the ladder and tightened a screw that did not need tightening. His hand slipped once, then steadied. After that meeting, the city felt narrower. Adrian noticed doors that used to be locked now opened for him. He noticed his name on a work list where it had not been before. He began to find small printed notices in his locker. No sender. No signature. Just reminders, timeline accuracy, report integrity, cooperation. The reflections did not stop. They changed locations. Elena appeared in a bus window as it passed, her face aligned with his for a second. She appeared in the dark screen of a ticket machine, closer than before. Adrian tested himself. He checked the glass, then checked the angle, then checked the street behind him. Nothing. He began to avoid glass entirely. He walked routes with brick walls and unfinished concrete. The city still found ways to reflect. A shallow puddle on a stair landing held her face for the length of a blink. A second meeting with Hale was scheduled without asking. A calendar invite appeared, accepted automatically. Hale sat in the same place and opened the folder this time. Inside was a statement drafted for Adrian. Not a confession. A confirmation. Hale spoke as if checking boxes. "This is administrative." Adrian looked at the page. One sentence described hesitation. One sentence described uncertainty. Both sentences felt designed. Adrian said, "The wording is wrong." Hale said, "From the outside, silence reads as hesitation." Adrian said, "What if it is not signed?" Hale said, "Then the file proceeds without cooperation." Hale slid the pen forward 1 centimeter. The movement was precise. Adrian signed because refusing did not change the outcome. It only changed where the weight landed. The green check mark appeared again. A new line in the system, cooperative. That night, the reflection stopped. Not gradually. Completely. The absence felt like a pressure release. Adrian slept for the first time in days without waking. The case closed in a short update. Missing, presumed deceased. No further action. In the break room, people spoke as if the city had repaired itself. Someone called it good news. Someone else said the family would move on. Adrian listened and kept his hands busy with a paper towel, folding it, unfolding it, then folding it again. The city outside remained wet. A month passed without reflections. The underpass light panel stayed stable. The camera lens stayed aimed at the wall. Adrian's badge worked every time. The printed notices stopped appearing. The city returned to its normal rhythm of grime and routine. One evening, Adrian came home and found his door unlocked. Not broken. Not forced. Unlocked. Inside, everything was in place. Keys where they always were. Shoes aligned. Sink dry. On the table sat a document. Clean paper. Sharp print. No envelope. It looked like it had been placed carefully, centered. Adrian touched it with 2 fingers first, as if testing temperature. The page felt room neutral. Not warm. Not cold. A title line at the top made his throat tighten. Voluntary disappearance report. The date on the report was not today. It was next month. A specific day. A specific hour. Adrian checked the corner for a logo. There was none. Only a reference number, formatted like an internal case. His name was typed beneath subject. Address correct. Work location correct. A paragraph described last known movements. Not vague. Not estimated. The underpass. The maintenance corridor. A door that Adrian had never used but knew existed. Adrian turned the page. The second page was a checklist. Items already marked. Witness contact attempts already logged. Camera review already noted. He stood without meaning to. The chair leg scraped. Outside, traffic moved as if nothing unusual had entered the building. The report did not look like a warning. It looked like a record created after an event. Except the event had not happened. At the bottom of the last page, one line sat alone. A finality line. Last person who saw him alive, Elena Markovich. Adrian read it twice. Then a third time. The name had not been spoken in weeks. The city had moved past it. He checked his phone for a missed call. No call. No message. No alert. He went to the window. The street below reflected itself in rain. In the glass, his own face looked slightly delayed, as if following him by a fraction. No one stood behind him. Not in the room. Not in the reflection. Adrian placed the report back on the table. Centered again. The way it had been left. He did not shred it. He did not photograph it. He did not call anyone. He sat and waited for a sound that did not come. The next day, Adrian went to work early. The building lobby smelled of detergent and wet coats. His badge accepted him. Green light. One beep. He walked to the underpass and stood under the stable light panel. The replacement looked perfect. Too perfect. He checked the camera pole again. The lens remained aimed at the wall. A tiny red indicator blinked once. Adrian reached into his pocket and felt the edge of the report paper, folded. He had brought it with him without deciding to. He unfolded it under the light. The ink was still sharp. The date still future. A drop of water fell from the ceiling and struck the page. The paper darkened slightly. The printed words did not run. Footsteps approached in the corridor behind him. Slow. Not hurried. Not heavy. Adrian did not turn. No voice spoke. No hand touched his shoulder. The footsteps stopped at a distance that felt measured. Adrian stared at the report until his eyes began to sting. When he finally turned, the corridor was empty. Only the hum of the light panel remained. He looked back at the page. One checkbox on the second sheet was now marked that had not been marked before. Subject observed alone. Adrian froze. He checked the ink. It matched the printer ink. Not pen ink. He folded the report and put it away. He walked back to the office level. On his workstation, a new calendar invite sat waiting. Accepted automatically. No subject line. Only a time block. At the bottom, an organizer name, Thomas Hale. Adrian did not click it. He left it there. That evening, rain intensified for an hour, then eased back to its usual drizzle. Adrian returned home and locked the door twice. He checked the chain. The report sat on the table where he had left it. Centered. He did not know if he had put it there again. He could not be sure. He stared at the line with Elena's name and tried to place her face. Not the flyer. Not the reflections. The real angle from the underpass, a passing glance. Adrian tried to reconstruct what he had not said. A sound. A shadow. A detail. Nothing came cleanly. Only the same moment repeating, her glance back, his eyes down, the light snapping on. He turned off the room lights. The table became a darker shape. In the black of the turned-off television screen, a reflection appeared. Not Elena. Adrian's own face, watching him from a half-step behind. He stepped closer to the screen. The reflection stepped closer. Too precisely. Adrian reached toward the screen. His hand met cold glass. The reflected hand met it too. He switched the television on. A bright menu. The reflection vanished. He switched it off again. The room returned. No reflection. He waited. Nothing returned immediately. Adrian sat on the couch without taking off his jacket. He listened to the building noises, water in pipes, a door closing, footsteps above. Minutes passed. Then a soft sound from the table. Paper sliding. Adrian stood. The report had moved. Not far. A few centimeters. As if adjusted. He did not touch it. He watched it the way people watched things they did not want to believe. The city outside remained wet. Light stubbled on the street. The record remained in the room. After midnight, Adrian's phone rang once. No caller ID. No greeting. Tomorrow, 9:10. Same place, Thomas Hale said. The line went dead. In the vending area, Hale arrived on time. He placed a small recorder on the table. It was not running. It was only there to be noticed. A single sheet followed. Not a statement. A summary. Adrian read the first line and stopped. The underpass time was correct. The next line described Elena turning back. That detail was not in any report. Adrian looked up. Hale's expression did not change. That line shouldn't be there. It will be there, Hale replied. Adrian pushed the paper away. You said you wanted closure. That is closure, Hale said. A finished version that doesn't reopen. Adrian kept his voice low. Where did you get that detail? Hale adjusted the page so it sat perfectly square. Details appear when a story needs them. Silence held the table. Adrian tried again. If I don't sign anything else, what happens? Hale folded his hands. Then we stop calling you cooperative. A pause. Then we stop calling you anything. Another pause. And the city picks a shape that fits. Adrian watched the recorder as if it might blink. It stayed dead. Hale stood to leave. One question, Adrian said. Hale waited. Do you believe she's alive? Hale answered immediately. I believe the file will close. He left the coffee untouched. On the third night, Adrian stopped sleeping. He sat at the table with the report in front of him. He placed a glass of water beside it, full to the brim, as a marker. At 2:13, the surface of the water trembled once. Not from a truck. Not from wind. The report did not move. The glass did not spill. Adrian wrote the time on a sticky note. He stuck it to the page. In the morning, the sticky note was gone. The time was printed on the report itself, in the margin, in the same font. Adrian stared at it until he felt heat behind his eyes. He folded the paper and put it in a drawer. He shut the drawer. He leaned his weight against it. He turned and saw the report still on the table. Centered. Adrian stepped back. The report did not accuse. It did not threaten. It waited, like a completed form. The next day, the calendar invite updated by itself. The time block shifted by 10 minutes. Adrian noticed because he had been watching it. He went down to the underpass again and stood under the stable light. He listened to the hum and tried to match it to his breathing. The corridor stayed empty. No footsteps. He unfolded the report and read the last line again. Last person who saw him alive, Elena Markovich. Adrian looked at the camera pole. The lens still faced the wall. He imagined the moment the report described. A future time. A future corridor. A future version of himself walking the route like any other shift. A city that already knew the ending. He folded the report and placed it inside his jacket. When he returned to the building lobby, the missing flyer board had been cleared. No paper remained. Only a clean rectangle of lighter wall paint. The city preferred blank spaces. That night, Adrian did not go home immediately. He walked the route Elena would have taken from the tram stop. He watched the puddles and the neon reflections. He stopped at a shop window and looked directly into it. His own face stared back. No one behind him. He walked to the pharmacy with the closed shutters. He stood where the reflection had appeared before. He waited. Nothing appeared. Adrian turned away and saw the underpass entrance. The light inside was steady. Too steady. He felt the report in his pocket like a weight. Not heavy. Certain. He left the street and entered the passage. The air smelled of damp concrete and old electricity. Halfway down, he stopped. He listened. From somewhere behind, slow footsteps began. Not hurried. Not heavy. Measured. Adrian did not turn. He looked up at the light panel he had replaced. It glowed without flicker. He reached into his pocket and touched the edge of the folded report. Paper. Ink. A future date. The footsteps stopped at the distance that had always been used in reflections. A voice did not speak. A hand did not touch him. Adrian stood still until his legs began to ache. Then he turned. The corridor behind him was empty. He looked down. A wet footprint sat on the concrete near the drain. Fresh. Small. It was the first real mark the city had offered. Adrian took one step back. His shoe touched water. The footprint filled slightly, as if the floor were breathing. Adrian left the passage without running. Later, the record would not mention the footprint. It would not mention the hesitation. It would only show the sequences prepared. The matter was scheduled.